Hey guys, welcome to my presentation on preparing for business communication abroad in England. I would like to begin by discussing some basic business and cultural etiquette you should know. In England, communication culture is highly influenced by their preference for manners and etiquette. They are conscious about what they say and whether it sounds polite and well measured. It is important to keep interactions friendly, respect the processes already in place, be a polite and active listener, and give indirect criticism. To imitate this behavior, attempt to be patient and reluctant to voice complaints. In England, humor is used to establish a positive and inclusive environment. Humor can ultimately reduce tension by breaking barriers, building trust, and enhancing humility. When you are able to replicate these behaviors, you can establish successful business relationships. Entering new environments means encountering cultural differences that you must adapt to. U.S. businesses expanding into markets abroad will encounter sociocultural forces that affect business operations. Many Americans have little knowledge of or experience with different cultures. Because culture affects all business functions, it is important to be competent in various cultures. Thus, my goal is to identify how business communication between America and England is affected by these cultural differences. England is mostly neutral in time orientation, short versus long term, while the U.S. is more short term. While this would not likely pose major business communication issues, you should be willing to compromise and set realistic expectations for handling modern day challenges. England is an individualistic society that prioritizes the pursuit of one's own goals and choice in both society and organizations. The U.S. scores similarly. In communication, you should emphasize opportunities and choices, discuss individual rewards and goals, focus on direct communication to efficiently deal with work tasks and outcomes, and spend less time in group decision-making. England scores low in power distance, meaning that they generally believe in minimizing inequality. Although there is a prominent class society, hierarchies are less regimented in the workplace. Because of this, workplace relationships are much more informal. This score translates to flat team structures and emphasis on power distribution. Decision-making is decentralized, which means that you should communicate directly with each individual. England falls closer to low uncertainty avoidance, which means that they feel relatively comfortable with uncertainty. They are more likely to take risks for innovation, which has high potential benefit in the future. While the U.S. has a similar score, it is more common to be risk-averse. Individuals in England may be more receptive to new ideas. The business environment is likely flexible and promotes entrepreneurship. Make sure your vision is flexible for if and when you are presented with new perspectives and opportunities. England tends to be more direct when communicating information and more indirect when communicating something that might be offensive to others. In general, they speak carefully and avoid speaking directly to the point. England is a high-context culture that demands you know the background in order to interpret the nonverbal cues. You should avoid being offensive or upsetting others. You should also find a balance between the communication styles that you use. Continually being offensive or ignoring the cues of others can damage business relationships. To be more effective, take note of the nonverbal communication and attempt to replicate it. England values relationships over materialism. Relationships play a significant role in business success in England. The English enjoy working with those who they have some kind of familiarity with. Try using a familiar third party to initiate business relationships. The emphasis on being cordial demonstrates the importance of establishing personal and professional relationships. Although England is known for its class society, relationships in the workplace are very informal. Most people call their boss and other colleagues by their first names. Thus, only when substantial relationships are formed will business communication be successful. A high individualism score makes it difficult to find a balance between preserving self-interest and promoting the minimization of inequalities. You should find a style that works best for each individual and minimizes inequality. An effective structure worth consideration is the lattice structure. As a low uncertainty avoidance country, the English are relatively comfortable in ambiguous situations. England's low uncertainty avoidance often means that leadership and management's vision isn't taken seriously. One of your primary goals will be adapting to successfully execute your vision and facilitating effective communication. England's time orientation might indicate issues with change and with setting long-term business goals. It is important to adapt your perspective and attempt to implement short-term communication goals in order to prevent issues. The United Kingdom and the United States have similar cultural dimensions. A general rule is that the small cultural differences greatly impact business communication. It is important to be properly educated on cultural differences and how to bridge the gap between American culture and foreign cultures. Although I have discussed cross-cultural communication with specific regard to England, there are 5 communication principles that I believe should be followed. Number 1 is prepare. Do your research in order to maximize communication and minimize mistakes. Number 2 is to be considerate of differences and offer respect equally. Number 3 is to be open to new perspectives and be willing to change your own. Number 4 is to practice open, transparent communication in order to remain effective. And the 5th principle is to take note of nonverbal communication methods and modify your own accordingly. Thank you.